Welcome again to Benchwarmers. We are in Mitchell, South Dakota this week on the campus of Dakota Wesleyan University. This is the Avera Sports and Wellness Complex, just a couple of years old here, joined by Jason Christensen, the head women's basketball coach at Dakota Wesleyan. And first of all, this place is 2 years old here, and this is a really nice addition to what you guys had going here on campus.
It is. I mean, it's used not only just, I know everybody sees the track, but we use it for basketball, we use it for track, we use it for soccer, baseball, golf. You know, it stays pretty busy. Even in the summertime now, it's been real busy.
The women's basketball team at Dakota Wesleyan just won the Naia National Championship. It was a couple of months ago, but that still sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
congratulations.
It does. It was a lot of fun, you know. Have good kids, and you know, I guess we got hot at the right time. You know, everybody talks about our offense during that time, but defensively, that's what really sticks out to me, how well we were defensively down the stretch.
Because you lost the last game, I think, of the regular season to Concordia of Nebraska, fellow conference member in the GPAC, and they beat you 3 times, but you end up beating Concordia for the national championship, right?
How do they say that? 4th time's a charm.
Yeah, hard to beat a team 4 times, right?
Yeah. No, you know, and we always played close with them. It was just they're a very good basketball team, and we just changed a few things up in that final game, and we came out on top.
Talk about some of those players you had that are going to be gone now. They graduated. The Bray twins, I think, are from Minoka, Minnesota.
Yep.
Chelsea Nagel was a great guard for you for a long time. Those guys were gone, but they were a huge part of this championship.
They were. You know, on and off the court, just great kids. You know, 3 kids that were 4.0s. They're all in PT school right now. You know, great kids. Chesney came from Avon. She had a little bit of a rodeo background, so she was a tough-nosed kid, and she was one of those kids, night in, night out. She got everybody's best player. Defensively, she might go down as one of the better defensive players I've ever coached. And then Ashley and Amber, when they came in, they just got better every year. And you know, they were 6'1" kids, and we consider them our 4-5, but they were in the top 10 in three-point percentage this year.
The numbers, as you talked about, were incredible for you guys this year. Nationally, 80 points a game. That was 3rd in the nation in NAIA. You led the nation in free throw shooting, 80% as a team. Your 3-point numbers were great. Your turnover, assist-to-turnover numbers were great. And that's not by accident, right? I mean, that takes a lot. Is that a lot of focus on doing things right?
It is, you know, and I know the kids, you know, when we get rewarded in the end, I think they're pretty happy. I mean, we do a drill at the end of practice where I just grab a couple kids, and, you know, there's a lot of times in the Corn Palace when we're finishing up practice, the JV game's getting ready to start, or the Hanson Classic's getting ready to start, and there's 100 fans in there, and, you know, they got to shoot free throws there, and if they miss, we run, and we don't leave until, you know, 4 people make 2 that day, or 5 people. We put them in tough situations a lot of times, and I think sometimes that wears on them a little bit, but then they understand in the end. That's why we do those things. And as far as turnovers, I just think our kids were, you know, I use the word mentally tough this year. They were a lot more, you know, focused, I thought, this year when we're taking care of the basketball.
I've seen where you've talked about that a lot. You'll take mental toughness is what part of being a great basketball player?
It's a huge part. Sometimes I think just being mentally tough will get you by more than your physical abilities. Right. I mean, it's, and I'll always say that. And that's one thing about this group this year. I just thought we were really mentally tough. You know, we lost some games, and this way we bounced back. Losing a game at Northwestern, we lost to them right after Christmas break, and then we went on to win every game up until we played Concordia in the finals there in the GPAC, and our kids are just that stretch. I think they really learned a lot. And then we had a stretch in there too, Tom, where we played Dort on a Tuesday, Dort on a Wednesday, and then we went to SDSU on a Thursday. Yeah. We had a Sunday game before that, and we went to Doane on a Saturday. I mean, there was 1, 2, 3, 4 games in like 6 days, you know, and I think that's what helped us in the national tournament, is just by the way we schedule. I know a lot of people think we're crazy, you know, we're doing something similar this year. You know, we're going to play Northwestern on a Wednesday, or we're going to play Iowa on a Tuesday, and then open conference play against Northwestern. I think is you know, and then turn around and play on Saturday. But I think when you put kids in those situations, you know, we might lose a few games here and there doing that, but I think it makes them mentally tough by just putting them in different situations like that.
All right, and in the last 3 years, you were rolling along pretty good up until the last 3 years. Got really good, 86 wins and 22 losses in the last 3 years. What kind of happened in those last 3 seasons?
I didn't realize that, but it's, you know, good kids. I think just having the kids that we brought in, they bought into what we want to do here. You know, I'm very defensive oriented, and I think they bought into that. And, you know, I've always said, there's times where the ball won't go in the hole, but if you play good defense, you'll be in every game, and we prove that. There's a few games, if you look at our schedule, where we've grinded it out and win 58, 57, and in the GPAC we average 80, 90 points, our league does. But there's times, I remember when we played Hastings, I think we played them in the Corn Palaces 60 to 59, one of those games. It's just, defensively, I think that's what we take pride in.
All right, and Riley Ostis, Kennedy Cheeseman, Sarah Carr, those guys coming back again this coming season, right?
Yeah, I have a good group of kids coming back, and I have some kids that played just some spot time that I think on a lot of other GPAC schools would be starting and averaging double digits, where those guys now get the chance to shine. So I'm looking forward to see what they have to do and what they can bring to the table this year.
All right, GPAC's going to change a little bit. Jamestown's coming in next year. We'll talk about that coming up in a little bit with Jason. Bring him back in a little bit. But congrats again, national champions.
Thank you.
In NAIA Division II. When we come back, Matt Wilber, the men's basketball coach here at Dakota Wesleyan, they've had some success in the last couple of years. We'll talk with Matt Wilber when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Avera Orthopedics.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers, brought to you by Avera Orthopedics, and we are here in Mitchell, South Dakota on the campus of Dakota Wesleyan University, and joined now by Matt Wilber, the head men's basketball coach at Dakota Wesleyan. 6th year coming up here.
Yep, going to be 6.
At Wesleyan, and before that, you and Nate Tibbetts ran a basketball academy, the Tibbs Academy, and before Nate went off and got an NBA job as an assistant still in Portland. You guys are in touch still a lot.
Yeah. I mean, he's like my best friend in basketball, and one of my really good friends. He's doing great out in Portland, man. I mean, if anybody's been following kind of his career path, going from an assistant at USF to the Skyforce to Tulsa with OKC, then working with Kyrie Irving at Cleveland, and now out in Portland, and he's been a hot name for some jobs. He's interviewed for 3 or 4 head coaching openings, so that's pretty cool.
Was he disappointed that he didn't get one this summer? He's going to get one eventually.
I think so, but he's so and I say this in front of everybody, and it's the truth. He's a very humble, very grounded dude, and he just is, and he's successful because of that. He's just great with the players, and he can relate to anybody, and so I think his time's coming. Obviously, from everything I see from in South Dakota, but he's made a really good name for himself in the NBA, and it's pretty fun to watch. It's pretty fun to watch because he's still the same guy. Like we talk very often, and he likes to talk about Dakota Wesleyan basketball more than he likes to talk about the NBA, and I have to pry him for some NBA stuff a lot. Does he think Portland can be a contender with some of these teams? The NBA is... it's wild right now, right? I think so. I think, they feel really good about, their guards, obviously, with Lillard and McCollum, and they signed their big guy back, but it's a gauntlet in the West. When I talk to him on the phone in the middle of the season, he's like, well, we've got this, what their schedule looks like. It's just unbelievable. And now you add LeBron, right? Yeah, you're right. Exactly. All right, well, the season last year, you guys went to the NAIA National Tournament for the 4th year in a row. Lost in the 2nd round last year, but you guys had some really good players that were seniors that are moving on now. Jason Spicer, talk about this, is another Sioux Falls Roosevelt kid. Saw him playing the state tournament in Rapid City, 4 years ago? Pretty good player, and he comes here and he turns into an All-American. Well, he's, his recruitment was really interesting. I was going there and I was watching Colton Koima was on that team, and then Chris Phillips was another really good athlete, obviously, and a basketball guy. And every time I'd go watch, I'm like, God, this Spicer kid, and ended up offering him like 3 or 4 different packages. Every time I'd go watch him, I'm like, I haven't offered you enough money, and and that's kind of how it works sometimes with recruitment. But for what we projected from him and saw, that's where nobody has a crystal ball in anything, but he turned into such a special player and one of the greatest here, being a first-team All-American his last year, and we played through him. Heck, he was 7th in the country in assists last year, and averaging 20 points a game, and just a testament to being the right kind of dude, the right kind of teammate, everything he did on and off the floor, he was special.
So Spicer goes. Trey Vandenberg.
Trey Vandenberg,
kid from Madison.
Yep, had a great year for us. Had a great career. Scored almost 1,500 points here. He was at Wayne State his first year, so he ended up scoring about 1,750 points in his college career. He just can flat out score, and he was great for us. So yeah, he's gone. And then Nigel Drury was a one-year transfer who averaged 11, 12 points a game for us. Was really good defensively. We were just talking about the NBA. Yeah. The difference in the NBA and college, graduation is real, right? It's coming, and so we graduate a lot of points and 3 starters and have to replace that.
Yeah, those 3 guys about 45 points a game.
Yeah.
But Ty Hoagland from Del Rapids is back. You got Nate Davis from Watertown. Colin Kramer from Sioux Valley. Sam McLeod, Rhapsody Stevens, all these South Dakota guys. Coming back, right?
We got a bunch of those guys, and then we have you've got a couple of freshmen coming in too that I think have a chance. And then the transfer world, and especially in the men's side, with the way things are going, the transfer world's real for us, and we have to be ready for that because we benefited from it. We've been really lucky to get good South Dakota kids as incoming freshmen, but adding in the right mix of 1 or 2 or 3 guys, from the area who are transferring back from the NSIC or from out of the area, and giving us more punch that way. So, we got a couple of guys in the mix there too.
And it's recruiting, as you said.
Recruiting is everything. You talk about college basketball, and I say this, and if there's 15 things you need to be great at in college basketball, the first 12 to 13 are players. You gotta have players, and anybody that tells you differently is, I think, probably a little crazy. I mean, you can talk scheme and X's and O's all you want, but if you need dudes who can play. So that's what we spend all of our time on.
And one of the good things though about the NAIA level is you have a JV team, you have a JV roster, you play a JV schedule, which allows you to bring. You had 40 guys on the roster.
Yeah, we had a lot of guys on the roster, and and that's not completely by design. Where we're said, hey, we're trying to get 40 in here, or we have a number we have to get to from our administration. Yeah. We've just been really fortunate to have a lot of kids. Basketball, especially boys basketball, globally and nationally, are way different than a lot of other sports. There's more basketball players today on the boys' side than there's ever been. And if you look at the youth circuits, the high school circuits, the summer stuff, kids want to keep playing. So we run into a lot of kids, and a big part of our roster is Dakota Wesleyan, the size of DWU. We don't hide that we're a small school. We're a big-time program. I mean, we don't hide that either, but we're a small school. And do you want to come here and be a part of a college sport and see what this looks like, or do you want to go to a state school and and not do the college route? And so that's where that's where a lot of our kids and in our roster are at, and we have a lot of kids that want to keep playing.
Yeah, there is opportunity.
We do, and so we have guys that have come through our JV program and had major impacts. You talk about lightning strikes. Trey Berg from Tri-Valley ended up being a first-team All-American. Chris Menning out of Corsica Stickney was a third-team All-American. So I love the fact that we don't have to go, who can we take? And we can bring kids in, and that's obviously a lot of South Dakota kids.
And again,
and you can find out, find out. And we play a ton of games. We play up to 30 JV games throughout the year, so they get to play a ton. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. We got a lot of good kids in our program.
All right, when we come back, we'll bring Jason Christensen back in. There's going to be some changes in NAIA basketball coming up in the next couple of years. These are big deals, I think, and we'll talk about that. When we come back, Jamestown joins the GPAC. That'll be a challenge for Dakota Wesleyan and the other teams in the league. We'll talk about that with the coaches here at DWU when we come back. Welcome back to Benchwarmers here in Mitchell, South Dakota, joined by the Dakota Wesleyan head men's and women's basketball coaches. Jason, Matt, Jamestown comes in to the GPAC, the Great Plains Athletic Conference this year. They've been really good in women's basketball in past years, haven't they? What kind of impact is Jamestown going to have coming in?
It just makes the conference a lot tougher. I mean, last year we had 5 teams rated in the top 15, and Jamestown was rated that 6 or 7 the whole time last year. And so, I mean, and I expect the same. So, will we have 6 teams now in the top 15? I mean, that's what I see happening. I mean, it makes it a lot tougher. But the thing Matt and I have done is we played Jamestown out of conference, so I mean we've been there, done that, so hopefully that'll help us a little bit.
All right, that'll be one change coming up. Another change coming in the next couple of years. NAIA is going to go away from having 2 divisions. There's been Division 1 and Division 2. There's about 90 or so teams in Division 1. about 140 or so in Division II in both men's and women's. They're going to combine that starting what, in 2 years?
Yep, in 2 years. So we've got two more, and then that
Okay.
third year will be all one division.
Is this a seismic change in NAIA basketball?
I just from the perception of it, for sure it is. It changes. It changes where the tournaments are and what the tournaments look like and the format of everything. The one thing that I don't think it's going to affect is to get into the national tournament, you still got to be great in your conference. It's still going to be regionally based as far as qualifying.
Okay.
They're going to add. They're doubling the national tournament pool. They're not doubling the field, right? Because there's only 94 Division I teams, and so we're okay with it. We're okay with it.
Each division used to have 32.
Each division at 32 teams. Yep, and now it's going to be 64,
Yeah.
but that's going to be in 16 regional sites, and so that's what the end site will look like. So we're moving forward with it as anything, and you got to be. The GPAC's always been nationally competitive, obviously in the women's side, but in the men's side as well. So you got to be great in your conference, and that's what we're going to focus on. I don't think it's going to change our recruiting a lot. I still think it's going to be a great tournament. I still think NAIA is going to be a great level of basketball.
And you were saying maybe the men's side is affected maybe a little bit more because there was more of a split between D1 and D2, not so much on the women's side, or?
Probably not so much on the women's side. But speaking like Matt said in the GPAC conference, we've been fairly strong throughout, since I've been here, and a lot of times we've had 3 out of the 4 in the national tournament, 4 out of the 4 one year in the Final Four.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. I don't see a lot of difference at all from my end.
All right, 2 more years before that happens. 2 more years for you guys to win some GPAC championships, some more NAIA national championships.
Well, hopefully, yeah.
Appreciate it, guys.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Jason Christensen. Appreciate it, guys. When we come back, Eric Denning will talk some high school basketball, the head coach at Mount Vernon Plankington. Talk about the Sweet 16 playoff format, how that has gone in South Dakota in the last couple of years. Welcome back to Benchwarmers, joined now by Eric Denning, the boys head basketball coach at Mount Vernon Plankington, just down the road here from Mitchell. And you were one of the first time. We're talking about the Sweet 16 playoff format in South Dakota, which is in full effect now in all 3 classes. Class A started it, AA and B joined just this past season. It was a big change in the way teams got to the state tournament. Has it worked is the big question.
Well, in my opinion, yes.
Yeah.
And the big debate, throughout the whole course of the history of this thing has been whether the state tournament should have regional representation or whether the state tournament, theoretically should have the best teams in it. And, in my opinion, I think it's worked. We've had some really good state tournaments, in Class A. And actually, we were Class B when I proposed it, but now we're Class A. And, I think in Class A, it's made for a really good tournament. And, there's a lot of reasons I favor it, but I think it's worked well.
The big change was there are 8 regions basically in the state of South Dakota, and it used to be the region champion from each of those areas of the state got into the tournament. Now, this changes that, where you still have playoff games, but you get it down to a 16, and it's seeded. And then there could be teams, as an example last year in Class A and in Class B, there were 3 regions that did not have a representative in the state tournament, which is bad for those regions, if you want to call it that,
right.
But it got the best teams into the tournament, right?
Yeah.
The goal was that.
In my opinion, yes. I guess basically the philosophy behind it was, you might have the top 2 teams in the state in one region. I remember one year we went into our district tournament when we were Class B at 17-3, and we were the 3 seed. And Trip Delmont ended up winning the state title that year, and their only loss was to us during the year. And I felt, that team that I had that year, and that was back in 2000, I think, or 2001. I thought we had a legitimate state tournament team, obviously, and it eliminates having those type of situations, and the thing that I like the most about it after the fact is I like the fact that it's you don't know who you're going to play. I think it generates some excitement throughout the state because, like we're all of a sudden paying attention to games going on 3 hours from us at the end of the year because it's going to affect our seeding formula and possibly who we play. We're paying attention to games and teams that we would have normally cared less about. So I think overall it's kind of created an excitement for basketball throughout the state. And you pay more attention to the statewide thing rather than just, well, basically stalking a team that you're going to play, have to go through to get to the state tournament. So I like that aspect of it as well. And I think honestly that's part of the excitement of the NCAA tournament is, when they announce the pairings and now everyone's like, all right, look who's in this region, and stuff like that. And I think it creates a little bit of that atmosphere.
And now that the format is set, you want to maybe make some tweaks in the future to make sure the seeding is correct. How do you go about doing that?
Well, I'm on the basketball advisory committee, and seeding is something that comes up every year, and it's really hard to get an accurate seeding formula. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Some teams play out-of-state teams, rely heavily on them if you're a border school. So it's easy to sit here and say, well, we should just put the NCAA formula in, and based on your win percentage and your opponent's win percentage and your opponent's win percentage. But when you have teams that play teams out of state, you basically would have to have a database of the whole country in order to do that. So it makes it really difficult to find something that is accurate. The big debate this year is should Class A take a deduct when they play Class B teams, and playing up and playing down a division and stuff like that. So it's hard because it affects people's scheduling, because people will fear, well, if we're a Class B team or we're a Class A team and we're surrounded only by Class B schools, it's going to be hard for us to schedule because we're going to have to take deductions for those, and so that's a hot debate every year. And I mean, we vote on different formulas every year, and the athletic directors can't seem to come up with a consensus about the best way to do it.
Right. There's always a little bit of self-interest, but it's about getting it fair and getting it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Appreciate it. Have a great season. We look forward to seeing you this winter. Eric Denning from Mount Vernon Plankinton and the Sweet 16 playoff format. We'll wrap it up here on Benchwarmers when we come back to Mitchell.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Avera Orthopedics.
Our thanks here in Mitchell to Jason Christensen, to Matt Wilber, and to Eric Denning. And just a reminder, we've got live football here in Mitchell coming up on Thursday, August 23rd, Dakota State at Dakota Wesleyan to kick off the college football season on Midco Sports Network. We are in Brookings next week. We'll see you then on Benchwarmers.